my fellow readers, Zydark Symphony 777 with another fan fiction review. As always, a link to the story will be in the description below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on that bell for notifications, leave a comment in the comment section below on your thoughts on the story, and finally, some my opinion. My opinion is I'm taking everyone in the world, so please respect that. So, the two stories I have is Just Us Little Ponies and Just Us Big Sisters by Grass and Clouds 2. These are two more fics of the second season of Lunaverse. I am down to like single digits now. I'm now like on the year. I'm like halfway through it, but I need to keep going. So also I've been playing a bit too much Fortnite. Blame the game for being actually pretty fun. Uh, so these two stories. Okay. Okay. Before before. How do I say what I have to say? Before I get into these two reviews, these two fics, I have to vent my frustration up of the second season up to this point. Now, there has been something of a weird situation happening when it comes to the characters being used in the specifically season 2 of the Lunaverse. And that is the idea of character direction. And just bear with me. There's a point to it. Character arcs and character direction are two different things. They're two completely different things. They're more or less, but they're under the umbrella of like how characters work. Character direction is just where you want to take a character, versus a character arc is which is that character going in that direction. That's more or less the difference. And when it comes to something like this, where you have six main characters, because you have the entire Luna main six are technically the main characters. You have Trixie, Lyra, Raindrops, Ditzy, Cheerilee, and Carrot Top. I understand that sometimes some of the characters are going to get priority, like Trixie. Trixie's technically the main protagonist, the main hero. So a lot of fics are going to focus on Trixie as a character and how she develops and deals with certain situations. However, and this is going to be a big frustrating point, you have we're nearly season 2 is around 30 fics, and I'm around fic number 20. This is fic 20. And it's only until now that we got a fic that stars better than Lyra. She becomes like an actual big thing in this fic. So yeah, Lyra last. What an extra story. That causes a problem when you essentially have six main characters, because this is at the point springtime in context, because season 2 follows the seasons, like depending on what season, depending on like how impactful and important the story has to be to the overall narrative. Spring is the second to last, and after these two stories starts the world tour arc. This fic right here that I'm going through right now is the first fic of the world tour arc, which is basically the point where the story is just solely focused on building up Celestia for the finale of season 2, if it would happen. You want to know something? Raindrops, Lyra, main character. Charlie, Raindrops, Trixie, and Lyra. Trixie, technically all five of them. There should have been four or five, but I know like that fan fiction has like a character limit of five. Trixie and Charlie, Lyra and Carrot Top. Uh, technically, Celestia and Luna. This is technically their story. Spike and Charlie, and Cadence and Celestia. You, the authors decided to collectively go. We are going to ignore Raindrops and Lyra for the bulk of the season. They do appear in future stories. The problem is, especially in these two stories, and that's gonna be kind of a thing with this story too. Uh Raindrop's character is not particularly well. It's it's very flat. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But on to the plot. So the plot of Justice Little Ponies basically starts with Snail's Raindrop's little brother getting bullied by Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon. Basically, typical bully behavior. They basically gotta get to him because they kind of like, oh well, no, oh you know what your sister's gonna do? She's gonna bring it to the baby store and get you a better and get herself a better brother, a better model. And I kind of call it, and that gets to Snails. Snails gets depressed. He talks to Raindrops and Shirley about the whole thing. There's like, okay, we'll talk to them when we get back. But to cheer them up, they decide to go to Canterlot to this new ornithological museum that's just about to open up. So they go there. They have a little fun. However, once they leave, they find out that a prison break happened. Basically, a bunch of ponies have broken out of prison, and most notable are two members of a big mafia called Luca and Martelli. I can't remember, and also a member of the Sun Cult, which is their first. This is actually their first official appearance in the Luniverse, and this is something that's gonna be like built up over the course of the World Tour, where they're kind of like built up as like the foot troops, and like they technically work for Celestia, and they want like make the transition as painless as possible, but also trying to get allies from other countries. Hence why it's called the World Tour. They have to go to other countries in order to hopefully keep Corona from getting allies to make their assault on Equestria easier. And thus they are locked into Canterlot. Raindrops really doesn't want to get involved because she's single mindedly focused on helping snails. The problem is the person in charge of the investigation, Archduke Bobbing Fisher, locked down the entire city because he just became super paranoid. He usurped command from Shining Armor, who technically is in charge of security of Canterlot, and thus technically is Fisher's superior. But Fisher pulls his way as basically leader of the war effort, like basically the war section of the Equestrian economy. Like Prusence is basically in charge of Equestria's assets. Fisher is in charge of the army military. So he basically says, "No, no, I am Fisher. I am. No one's allowed to leave until I find these gang members and this Sun Cult member and deal with them." So now they are stuck. So while they're stuck, Charlie decides I'm gonna go visit a friend. I know this is not actually what happens. Basically, what actually happens is they go find their friend and uh, and they have to try and investigate, and then they get shut down. But But let me continue. Charlie decides to go visit a friend who coincidentally was a person she used to work with in the past. More hints towards Charlie's background. Carrot Top is also there because Carrot Top got a Carrot Top, and Raindrop just wants to take care of her brother. They run into Baron Mountain Max, who's basically a new member of the Night Court, and he's basically just like, oh, I just want to hit people really hard in the face. That's his whole stick. He's like, I want to do paperwork, but I keep ending up having to like fight people. That really what happens? Pretty much. They find out that a lot of outside circumstances and people manipulated the situation around Canterlot to stage a breakout of all of these corrupt ponies with the expectation of trying to kidnap the the mafia bosses. And so we get this little adventure when they're constantly going across Canterlot with Charlie and Baron kind of tossing around like information with each other and trying to plan and trying to figure things out while they're constantly getting stymied by Bobby Fischer, who basically is so single focused on dealing with the Sun Cult that he doesn't realize that there might be a reason behind the whole thing. No, nonsense. They somehow escaped and now they're gonna blow up everything, which turns out to be true. Which is a can of worms in of itself. We'll talk about that when I talk about Fisher. Trust me, that's just a massive can of worms. They do eventually find out that the people who did it was a shadow bolt by the name of where the I completely forgot. Quick something. Basically, he's basically tricked Twilight Sparkle into coming to Canterlot by saying that, oh, you have good behavior, you can go see your family. So now Twilight, they kind of, with the hope of capturing Twilight, him, a mysterious third member, and the former worker for Fisher named Goliath, basically manipulated all these events to capture all of these ponies because the Shadow Bolt, who is the mastermind behind the whole thing, believes that the justice system is inherently corrupt, mainly due to the idea that instead of punishing the ponies, they let them go. Now, realistically, uh, it is a tough conversation to come about. The whole idea is like whether, depending on the person, rehabilitation or like actual incarceration would work. I think it just personally, I think it just depends on the person. Like there are some truly disturbing and disgusting people, and I do think they should be locked up fully. But there are some people that like circumstances and they kind of need and they should deserve to let go. And so it just basically boils down to like the circumstance and the context behind the whole thing. It's a really messy argument, and you can go and there's so much you can talk about that. More or less, quick attack. No, wait, I don't think it's quick attack. Is it? Um. Ah. Hold on. Okay, there's the guy's name. Sneak attack. I knew the guy his name had attack into it, but I completely blanked on the whole thing. Yeah, sneak attack believes that a lot of these criminals, especially the mafia twins, because apparently they were willing to do a plea bargain to kind of get like a lower sentence. Like we'll tell you all this information about this big thing that's other big thing that's happening involving the Griffins. Just lower our sentences to like a decade. Like, oh yeah, we'll do that. And I kind of like convinced him to do this whole plan. So him, this mysterious third party, and Goliath, who's basically a former employee of Fisher, who kind of has who has the mentality of a child, basically do all this stuff in order to just murder a bunch of people. They just want to kill a bunch of people and say like, no, these people deserve justice. and it's up to Cherylee and Mountie Max in order to stop them. So that way, not only can these guys not go down the route that they're hurting these other people for, but so that the other people don't become the criminals don't become like martyrs and stuff like that. Because the ponies do believe in rehabilitation and say that we should at least give some of these people a second shot, or even like Twilight, who technically was paying her sentence, and even like the judge, like, okay, fine, you got like a bunch, you're technically actively helping ponies. That's fine. There is a problem that I have with the plot of this. It's not so much like, and I didn't talk about everything like the fact that Greengrass is involved, or Carrot Top kind of becomes like a side character more or less. No, the problem I have with this plot is the role of Fisher. I don't have a problem with the fact that like technically this is technically the last season to involve the Night Court, and the story does end with Fisher getting fully removed. Unlike Prusens, who's smart enough to realize Luna's really watching us. I'm not taking the chance. Bobby Fisher is meant to be like Prusens, except he has like no restraint. Like, oh, I will fucking hurt people if it means this. And he doesn't care. So what happens is, for some reason, the author decides to try and make him sympathetic, like him being an extremist with a justifiable cause. Like he's doing all of this to protect the people because he realizes that the elements are the only thing that can deal with Celestia. And if the elements are hurt, that means no more. They can't work on Celestia anymore. That means Celestia pretty much automatically wins. That's fine because at his core, Fisher as a character is a warmonger. That's basically his whole thing. He is basically someone obsessed with war, and basically his whole deal is he just want he's thinking everything in like a military sort of way. That's basically who he is. What that has a problem with is the author goes out of his way to try and humanize him when that really doesn't work for Fisher's character. The whole thing is like, if you go back to the Grand Galloping Gala, Fisher is horribly tribalist, which is basically the Lunaverse equivalent of being racist. He's very racist. He makes it very clear that he's willing to like go to all these extreme measures to lock away the elements, put away the key, while the other politicians basically just want to control them for their own needs. He's like, nah, I just want to, I'll fucking lock them in a closet until they're needed. They're tool. He sees them at the other more corrupt members like Bruce's or Greengrass before he returns in this story where he kind of goes through like a redemption. Uh, they see them as like tools to have, like tools to use for the betterment of Equestria. Meanwhile, Fisher literally sees them as tools, like just physical objects to wield and use. Like he doesn't see them as people. He sees them as things. While the other politicians are like, we want to control them, but we want them to use like whatever we want. Like they still see them as people, as their own people. So they try. That's why in a lot of season one, Greengrass is trying to manipulate situations in order to get the main six under his control because like, oh, I can use you as like blackmail agents or like weapons to kind of wield against other people. So like, ha, you can do that. While Fisher's like, nah, they're just weapons to me. It's a really weird narrative decision to randomly sympathize the one politician who really shouldn't have been, who should not have been sympathetic. especially at near the end of the story, where guess what? While Raindrop and Mountain Max and all them were dealing with the act where the villains who had the mafia. Where is it? I think it's this story, right? No, it's just I think it's this one. Well, it's one of these stories. Right here. I think it's this one. Fisher actually finds the location of the Sun Colts base in Canterlot. And guess what? It turns out they had a massive fire, a borderline the equivalent of a nuke in their base, ready to put inside Canterlot Castle, and basically exploded when Luna comes back. And he has his troops raid the place. They arrest everyone. What is and it's presented as like a good thing, which it is because guess what? You're stopping an assassination attempt of a princess as well as a large number of people. Because you don't know how long, because it's never like revealed how powerful the bomb is, just that it's a really powerful firebomb. And they're willing to do it in Celestia's name. What is Fisher? What happened with Fisher? Oh, because he didn't rescue a bunch of criminals because he was keeping his mind on other things. Uh, he gets removed from from his job as like the Minister of War. What? I'm sorry. What? I like if he was like fully corrupt, fine. I can deal with that with like his corruption kind of costing him a job. And that does happen at the end when runs into Greengrass. Greengrass kind of tricks him into like taking a bribe, like saying, "Oh, I'm going to bribe and destroy Mountie Mac's career for ruining my career," and that causes him to get a subpoena where he runs away and now he's like a fugitive. Problem is, that makes like how he gets fired makes no sense. Realistically, he does technically get fired specifically for the martial law because he declares martial law to prevent any of the criminals from getting out. But the fact that he basically stopped a bunch of cultists, like insane cultists, and honestly, what was more important? Saving a bunch of criminals from a guy who's basically going to murder them because the guy was tired of them getting away with criminals, or saving the entire city from a bunch of lunatics who basically are literally about to murder a bunch of people with a bomb. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can find. If I can find it. Like I can at least show you. I know it's in here. No, not here. No, I don't think it's here. It's one of these. It's one of these. I'm gonna show you. Yeah, right here. Like this is the part where Mount Max runs into Fisher because he's trying to get to the loading docks where they find out that's where all the people are being spayed. Right as they're about, like, right in the middle of them raiding the Sun Cultist base, and he gets fired for possibly like legitimate reasons. Like he wasn't. Yeah, you can look at it like, okay, he's being a scumbag for letting a bunch of criminals die. But the framing of the whole thing just makes it so that he didn't really deserve to get fired. Like if he was like, oh, he's gonna like bully or push someone around or like maybe yell at Shining Armor, like say no, I'm the superior and there's not a damn thing Luna can do about it. Like like showing that he's still like horribly corrupt, unlike Prusen, who's actively trying to hide it. And at least Prusen works as a morally gray character, while Fisher really should have just been like an absolute like should have been what he how he was portrayed in Grand Galloping Gala, a borderline warmonger. But like here, listen closely, Colt. Every decision we make as nobles will help some ponies and hurt others. Transportation. Oh wait. The mafia phonies were captured by the vigilantes. Just if we fail here, the Sun Cult to have a chance to annihilate multiple city blocks. I will not rest on like what you're the guy in charge of the military. What would be more important? Like rescuing the mafia ponies that you're that you've been looking for, or preventing a cult that you're also in the middle of raiding because this happens. Yeah, hold up the remnants. They have enough medical artifacts to threaten the safety of anybody inside the camp. Yeah, they're in the middle of a fucking raid, so it's like, okay, what would be more important? Rescuing a bunch of randoms and possibly find the mafia, or stopping a cult sect from destroying the city. But I would say let them risk the city. It's like, okay, you want to go save them? Go save them. That's fine. There is no need. This is such a narrative backfire that I don't know what the author was thinking when he wrote this. Like, okay, you want to get Fisher removed from the position to kind of let Mountie Max do it. There was other ways he could have done it besides making him look sympathetic and actually justified in the narrative sense, to the point where him getting fired seems almost like a dick move. It's just a weird thing. And that's not even that's still glossing over like my other main issue, and that's raindrops. And boy, oh boy, do I not like raindrops in this story. I don't like raindrops in this story either. And this story is more focused on her because this story, the whole point and impetus of this story is the fact that Raindrops is trying to cheer up Snails. So, one, why is Raindrop treated like a secondary character here and completely ignored in favor of Chara Lee and her skips-like tales? Like, I know a guy. Wait, no, that's Muscle Man. I've seen this before. There you go. And also the fact that this story is like Raindrop's first story in season 2 where she's playing a prominent role, and she does buck all in terms of character, in terms of importance of the plot, because she's only there to physically handle Goliath, who is honestly is like a brick. Like, you think Big Mac is strong? No, this guy is strong. And Raindrops is just there as a one-dimensional, look scary, and hit something really hard. And that's just a really big waste of Raindrop's character, because, and that's where I was going with the character direction, because all the other main six have a direction where the authors want to take them. Trixie wants Trixie learning to be more humble. Chara Lee, her past and like all the skills she's accrued. Carrot Top, being a big part of the farmers union and trying to help bridge the gap and kind of get Applejack to kind of see like you need to be more kind and not so obsessive. Dipsy do her whole thing of being what essentially a teenage mother, and more or less a teenage mother because she's technically the youngest of them, despite having a kid. Uh, Lyra has some things like wanting to become a musician and learning like all these legends and stuff, and also her relationship with Bon Bon. What does Raindrop have? Like throughout both seasons, Raindrop has just been angry pony who punches real hard. That's not a direction. That's just a trait. Well, that's two traits. But but there's nothing that's been done with her character at all. Even to this story where she's essentially the main character, nothing's done with her character. She has no character arc. She has no agency in the context of any of the stories. She's quite literally used 90% of the time as just an angry pony, and to try and force like certain plot points along. That's like, oh, we need something completely to kind of go bottoms up. Oh, we'll just use Raindrop because she has anger issues. That's that's not a character. That's a plot device. Raindrops is a living plot device, and you should. And if it was like, oh, it's a minor character, it's fine. Characters are plot device all the time. Yeah, that's true. Except for the fact she's supposed to be a main character. She's supposed to be one of the 6 main characters, and yet throughout, like, she's had nothing. She's had zip, zada, nilch, zero, nothing. Why? Just why? Like, and I know why, because all the authors would rather focus on Trixie or Cherylee or Carrot Top. They don't Raindrop. The issue with Raindrops is the simple fact that there's just been not enough stories focused on her as a character. She's essentially flat because she was never given the chance to be. None of the authors wanted to write about her that much, and the few times they do write about her much, they either just leave her as like an angry pony who just wants to punch stuff, or when they do try to develop her character, it comes off as the most forced, awkward bullshit impossible. It's Raindrops is so bungled. Like even Lyra is bungled too, but Lyra at least has something going for her. Raindrops doesn't have to. She has a direction. She has a more defined character. Raindrop doesn't even have that. She's just an angry pony who just wants to punch stuff. That's not a character. What? Like, it's just a like it's just a like bot with like it's so weird. It's so bad. I don't know why. You know what? I'm gonna move on from the story. Character wise, I talked enough about Fisher. Like Cheerilee's fine. I like Baron Max and his whole spiel with Greengrass and showing that Greengrass, is coming a long way. Raindrops is just basically just an angry, one-dimensional pony who solely believes that criminals are criminals and they should all die, to the point where everyone kind of calls her out in the end sense. Okay, you're acting just like the vigilantes we just stopped. You, no, I'm not like you're acting like them. She really is. And it really doesn't help that she pretty much defaults to it, not in this story, but in this story where she's just angry pony who just wants. Okay, so like, like she has. Cheerilee has more character development. Carrot Top has more character development, and she doesn't even show up in like half the story. Carrot Top's really just there for like a single part, like near the end, because like, oh, the mafia ponies raid Greengrass's house because it's like, oh well, those ponies probably know where the Dons are, so we're just gonna kidnap the brother and do that. It's like, all right, we need to protect the what's your name? Snails. We gotta protect Snails. It's such even Even Snails has a better defined character than Raindrops. How do you bungle this so badly? I'm just gonna move on. Pacing fine. Pacing's fine. It could have been much slower the flesh out Fisher's character, but it's fine. We'll talk about it. Grammar errors. I did. Do you remember seeing a couple, like one or two grammar errors? I think there was a comment thing throughout some of them that does mention them. Let's move on. Joseph's big sticker. Okay, so this plot wise, this happens about 3 weeks after this story. Raindrops wants to be there for Snails. Fine. However, what happens is Goliath's sister, who was in charge of Fisher's security, finds out, hey, Goliath is basically, behind kind of behind bars. He's actually more an asylum for mentally deficient people because he's not really, because he's had mental problems. So, and Goliath technically lost to Raindrops mainly because a lot of outside interference kept happening, like a pillar collapsed on Goliath, and Raindrops just got lucky by tiring him out. So Goliath is completely just like mentally scarred by Raindrops and like afraid of her, and like that she'll just come in the asylum and just finish the job. So Goliath's sister Juggernaut decides, I go challenge Pony to duel to cheer you up, which is that's a good thing. So what she does, she rents a room in a hotel. She starts, she buys things so that way she can help the feeding the economy. She finds Raindrops and says, Raindrops, I challenge you to duel. Da. No, okay, I come back later. 2 hours later, the Raindrops, I couldn't do to duel. No, I come back later. And it basically, more or less, the plot is just that. Like, Raindrops constantly getting exasperated by one Juggernaut finding where she is somehow. Raindrops going, I tell you to do. We do it now. No. Okay, I come back later. And then rinse and repeat throughout most of the story. It's cute. It's actually kind of funny because it's meant to be like a sort of mirror image to title match. The difference is Juggernaut's there for an actual altruistic reason, like because he's basically trying to cheer up her brother, and she's also very polite. Like she's not harassing the locals. She's at worst she's just annoying Raindrops. That's the worst she's doing. Like even Mayor Mary's like, okay, so what are you doing here? It's like I trying to ask Raindrop to do. Da. Do you live in one? I rent room. Okay. Are you buying anything? I buy pie. Lots of pie. Okay. Nothing I can do. Wait, what? Mm-mm. She's putting money. It's like maybe you might pay her. Oh, you pay? Okay, fine. 20,000 gold to do me. No, not good enough. 30,000 gold to me. Da. No. Okay, I ask later. It's a more silly version of that story. The problem is Raindrops just like okay, so I think the idea is meant to portray that Raindrop's whole thing is she's angry and strong, but now she's having to meet someone who's way out of her league physically, and unlike Goliath, who only reason Raindrops beat Goliath is due to the fact that his mental capabilities couldn't really have him fight that well. He was just basically just kind of just throwing his hooves and hoping they hit her. Now she's might fight someone who not only is possibly even stronger than him, but knows how to fight. Like knows actually how to fight because she even has a sword, and she even does she even shows the foes how boxing boulders and breaking them apart with her hooves. So she has to try and figure out a way to kind of deal with this situation without resorting to violence, which would have been fine, except this whole thing just reeks of forcing a character in a direction that makes no sense because of the simple fact that Raindrops is so underdeveloped as a character that this just comes off as very forced to try and give her something, and it doesn't really fit because turns out a lot of this situation would have been resolved if she just was her angry, violent self. And even then, they come to like there's also like a weird plot, like side plot involving Applejack and Carrot Top and like a piece of land full of rocks. It's really just there to set up that plot. Really only exists to set up the like how they settle how Raindrops and Juggernaut settle the conflict, which is just like okay, whoever clears most of all, you're gonna clear as many squares as you can. Whichever squares you clear, that side gets that percentage of the acre. All right, that's fine. However, again, it comes at the cost of the whole thing just being so incredibly forced. Because when you had a character whose whole thing was that she's just an angry, violent person with way too many anger issues, and then you just introduce like, oh, here is Strong Pony. She challenged you to duel, da, and instead of doing the raindrop, like the rational thing is like getting your anger, like her anger getting the best of her. It's like she turns into like a weak person who's just constantly getting annoyed by the whole thing. It's very off putting and it really turns Raindrops out of like OOC, and it's such an annoyance reading Raindrops characters this, especially since she's just there to try and to give like the act to like help her brother because like well it does have to be fight. I just have to beat you up and do good. So what do you have to kill me? No, I just beat you up. You're my brother. Because because Juggernaut's not really it's more socially awkward than like actually disabled like Goliath. So Juggernaut doesn't know what she like her like randomly harassing Rambo drops for a duel is like a bad thing because she's kind of giving up this message that she's just kind of like a violent psychopath. She's not. She's actually a very kind person who's very socially awkward. It and I think that's fine for Juggernaut's character, like this very muscular Russian woman who just basically is like, "Da, I eat pie. Why you eat a lot? Why do you eat a lot of pie? For energy. With this book, I need lots of food to keep up. Da." And she even beats Raindrops in the end when it comes to like clearing the field. She she gets a proper lead. It's like, okay, you beat me at a rock cleaning contest. Ah, I tell brother, eat your up. Thank you, danka. And I even do like the running gag of Juggernaut just randomly just showing up the fuck out of nowhere just to ask Rainbow drops for a duel. Unlike Galeb, who can't take no for an answer because he's kind of an idiot. Juggernaut's basically just like, I take no for I take no because I know you're going to say yes. Eventually. I keep asking. But why? I rich. I can stay. I'm on vacation. Da. That's Vidania. However, with Raindrop's character, she's just butchered. She. It's so hard to describe Raindrop's character in this story because it's such an abrupt 180 through like compared to all of her previous appearances that it's so off-putting, and it just completely destroys like any credibility I have for a character. Okay, especially once they try and do something else with her, and then just make her into like Equestria Girls Twilight Sparkle when she sees Flash Sentry. It's such a weird thing because you look at like all the other main, like all the rest of the Luna main six, and you see, hey, they have a thing going on with them, but then you see Raindrops, and it's like she's nothing. It's I can at least appreciate the effort the author went for trying to or do something with her, but this is such a case of way too little, way too late for her character. I I would rather her just be like a non-entity, like oh, just replace her with someone, replace her with anyone as the element of honesty, because they probably have a better character than Raindrops. Uh, Pacing wise, I think this actually paced better than Justice Little Ponies. Grammar error wise, I do think there was a couple other grammar errors, but I can't remember where specifically in the story. Mainly because the author does intentionally butcher um, Juggernaut, because Juggernaut's it's very clear that Juggernaut's first language is not Equestrian, i.e., English. So she does have a broken accent. So it is intentionally written very like really poorly to emulate that. That's fine. But yeah, okay. So would I recommend these stories or would I not? I No, I can't, because as much because I do think both plots are fine. I think plot wise is fine, and I even think like character wise, outside of Raindrops, this is fine. So you know what? Yeah, I would recommend Justice Little Ponies. I would not recommend Justice Big Sisters because of how bungled Raindrops is here. It's like I said, her character is just that bad. I can't recommend this one. I remember this, not this. So I have a favorite part. Not really for either. I mean, I guess you could say Juggernaut. I do think Juggernaut was like a really great character, but it's not really enough to say that's my favorite character or something like that. Do I have a favorite? Do I? Was there anything I would change? I can't. I can't. I would want to say I would what I would want to change about Justice Big Sisters. Problem is, it's just everything. Everything about wrong about the story just stems from the fact that Raindrops is just such a fundamentally flat character because she's had next to no like actual significant appearances in like 30 stories across like both seasons of the Lunaverse, that she's just a fundamentally flat character, and you have to have like a significant amount of work done just to even make her a functional character. And I legitimately don't think you could do that in one story. That's just it. That you're asking an impossible thing with just as little ponies. Yeah, there's actually stuff you could do. First thing is make Fisher a jackass. Like that's just plain and obvious. Don't make him sympathetic. The whole thing is he was supposed to be the black to Greengrass and Prudence more like gray oriented characters, or green, or specifically for Greengrass, gray to like good, because Prudence is a very multifaceted character. Fisher is again a warmonger. It also doesn't help that when it comes to Fisher's character, he don't see enough of it in the story. So I would suggest making it longer and give like a bunch more scenes to Fisher to flesh out his character. So even if you're trying to go this more sympathetic route, it it's at least comes off more natural. Like with Ice Hearts, half of the story is from Prudence's point of view, and so you get to see an in-depth look add her mindset, so that makes her a very more, and that turns her into a more interesting character, and that's fine. I think, like I said, I liked Prusens. I liked the idea of Fisher is fine on paper. Like the idea of Fisher can work. It's just he really can't be sympathetic because he's a character that really comes off as you can't really make someone like him sympathetic, and this story kind of shoots itself in the foot by trying to make him sympathetic. So make the story longer, flesh out his character. If you're going to have him removed from the Ministry of War, like you could also make the extended parts flesh out, like to kind of like have him argue with Shining Armor. Maybe he like maybe he like tries to like claim he's like Luna's an idiot or something like that, and he turns around, there's Luna right in his face, just looking at him. It's like, oh, we're gonna have words. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. So yeah, that's really what I would do with Justice Little Ponies. I can't really, like I said, I can't really say anything about this story because this is like the error with this is something that can't be done in one story. It has to be multiple stories. So yeah, that is Justice Little Ponies and Justice Big Sisters. This has been Dark Symphony 777, and cut.